Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Belief Breakthrough Show. Today, we have a treat for you. We have my girl, Erin, and she is a bad ass. You guys, this woman has written a book, and it's literally called From Beaten to Badass. She is absolutely amazing. She possesses her power. She speaks her power. She speaks her truth. And although she has experienced being kicked down before, she refuses to accept it anymore. And she stands in her strength and she speaks to others. So, you guys, I just have to tell you, this woman that we are going to hear from today has a story to tell, and a story that most likely you can relate to some part of it. And she is going to rock our world. So, with that being said, Erin, I want to turn the floor over to you and let everybody know about your awesomeness, about why you're so passionate about what you do, and tell us about your mission that you are carrying out throughout this world today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tina, for having me today. I really appreciate you picking me as a guest for your show. I had a little sidetrack there. I got a little brain moment. So my name is Erin Baer, she said, and I am an author, speaker, and coach. I wrote the book called From Beaten to Badass, and I wrote it last year, and I launched it in October, which is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's also my favorite month. It's my birthday month. It's fall, all the fun things. And so when I wrote my book, I decided I was going to donate a portion of the proceeds back to those impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. Mm-hmm. And so we did that. I started a whole business called Beaten to Badass. I launched my book From Beaten to Badass, and then I gave a portion back. And in December of last year, I was like, this is great, writing a check every month and helping them financially, but I know I can do so much more. So on December 27th, I had a prompting, and the prompting was, how could I giving back one step further? How could I take that giving back a little further than just writing a check every month? And so I was like, I wonder if I could get the book into the hands of those that need to hear my story and my message the most, those victims and survivors. And so I said, I wonder if people would buy the book, not for themselves, but for a shelter, and then sponsor that book in their name. And so I put a post on Facebook. I said, hey, $20, I'll take care of the shipping, sponsor a book, I'll put your name in it, and I'll send it to any shelter you'd like. Let's start with Colorado. Well, my first hit was within like 5 minutes of putting that campaign out. So it took off. It was pretty amazing. Somebody in Tennessee was like, I'd love to be the first sponsor. Can I sponsor here in Tennessee? And I was like, I guess so. We're starting with Tennessee after all. Like, we're not starting, it went a different direction, but we ended up really having success with it. People just started saying, I want to sponsor a book. And so before I knew it, I had, 10 books sponsored, and then 30, and then it kept growing. And it was kind of just a pre-launch for the new year. So it was called Make an Impact in 2020. And it's really grown. We've hit 280 shelters across the country. We've had one shelter in Canada sponsored. We've had 5 states completely sponsored, which means every shelter in that state has a copy of the book From Beaten to Badass. So Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, New Jersey, Hawaii are completely sponsored, and Puerto Rico is completely sponsored. There's 3 shelters down in Puerto Rico, so we've hit Puerto Rico. It's pretty exciting. Awesome. Yeah, and so...
Can you tell us a little bit about that story of Beaten to Badass? Can you let us know, like, what have you gone through? What are you surviving from? What
Sure.
have you done to step into your power and become who you are today?
Absolutely. So the book From Beaten to Badass is all of the things from childbirth, not my child, well, me being born, I don't have any kids, all the way up into an infertility journey. So I talk about bullying, abandonment, abuse, both physically, financially, sexually. I was raped, and then bodybuilding, golf, all the different things where I kind of had to pull my life together. So as a child, I was bullied and teased by my peers as well as my siblings. And I thought, what is the purpose of life if I'm just always teased and tormented? Like, why do I need to go through this? Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Yeah. And I didn't even do anything wrong. It's just because of the way I look or the way I am. Everybody loved my, sister. And so I was bullied all the way through school, all the way up till I graduated high school. And then I finally, went to college, and I kind of found a little piece of my own. So bullying and teasing was my first beaten down moment. I felt like, gosh, I keep getting beaten down, but I keep getting back up. Everything keeps telling me I need to fight. I need to keep getting back up. It's got to get better one day. One day it'll get better. And so that was the first like real moment of getting beaten down. And then my mom, she actually disowned me a few times in my teens and then in my early 20s. And so abandonment became a big part of my life. And so I was like, man, I'm not good enough at all. I don't understand why nobody likes me, including my mother. And so I finally decided, enough is enough. And I went and I moved to Colorado. And I got into a real life relationship, or at least I thought it was a real life relationship, adult relationship. And it turned out to be a nightmare of domestic violence and sexual assault. I was beaten on a regular basis. I was told I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't pretty enough, that I didn't know how to behave. I needed to shut up and sit down. And I was finally raped in that relationship. And it was pretty bad until one day I fought back. The little girl in me said, this is enough and I'm not going to do it. And I came home and I turned the corner and I saw him sitting in a bathrobe that I had won at a golf tournament. I was like, you're sitting in my bathrobe. And it just clicked. And I went crazy. When they say a woman goes crazy, better watch out because she goes crazy. And I had that moment and I kicked the monster out. And that was my tipping point of abuse. That was when I was like, I am tired of things defining my life that don't serve me and that I don't deserve. I don't understand why I have this mentality of why I deserve this, but I know I don't deserve this, and there's got to be something better. So that was my, tipping point of being beaten down. And so I finally, kicked him out, went through the court case, which if anybody has been through, it's awful. You have to relive everything. You have to constantly talk about it. And the last thing you want to do is talk about it. You just want it to all go away. You feel very shameful. You feel very embarrassed and guilty, like you deserved it. And so it took a lot of time of self-reflection and healing and trying to let people tell me that I was enough and that I wasn't deserving of all of those things. And so I got into bodybuilding because I figured I don't like who I am right now on the inside, but if I can change the outside and look really good, then surely it'll transfer in the inside. But bodybuilding turned out to be more of an inside transformation than anything.
Yeah, it's crazy how we get to that point where we're like, I'm just not enough. I'm just not enough. And that becomes our dialogue. And we almost manifest that within our lives that we just aren't enough. I grew up with the same conversation in my head. You're not enough. You're stupid. You're ugly. Nobody loves you. And you get to a point where either you can continue believing that and living that troublesome life, or you can stand up for yourself and say, you know what? You're a beautiful person. No matter who believes you or not, if you believe that you are beautiful, then you are enough. And you will find people who believe that you are enough. And you kind of like that little girl inside of you having to stand up and say, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I am not going to believe these lies. I'm not going to listen to these lies. I'm not going to allow anyone to speak these lies to me because I am enough. And that's the only person that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what got you to that point that made you stand up and say, I mean, I understand it was him beating you and the rape and things like that, but he couldn't make you get to that point. There was something inside of you that had to, throw away all the lies and the disbeliefs and say, I'm not listening to that anymore. So what inside of you got you to that point?
I think it was all the seeds that were planted in my life through the people that God put in my life intentionally that were good for me, all my mentors. So in my book, I talk about my mom, and she taught me some of the greatest lessons. Even though I thought I wasn't enough for her, she actually taught me self-acceptance and acceptance of others, and then there was my father who taught me strength. You're strongest when you're silent, meaning I'm talking about a different silence. When you go in yourself and you're strong and you reflect, that's when you can find your strength to then speak up and obviously become the person you're meant to be. And then I had a lot of golf mentors. Golf was my thing. Golf was the one thing that was consistent, that I could control, that I was good at, that I knew that I was enough. Like I'm a great golfer and I've got a natural ability. And I'm not saying that to be egotistical or anything or full of myself. I'm just simply saying that was one of the gifts that God gave me. And so when I wanted to reflect or feel important or feel the approval of myself and others, I could go play golf. And so I had all these great golf mentors in my life that taught me, patience and integrity and perseverance and, really learning that life is hard. It's like a golf course, you might shank it to the left and hit in a bunker, and then you get it out on the fairway, and then you're back in the water and you got to take a penalty and kind of go backwards and redo the shot. And so life is very, very similar to golf. And so I was able to play the game and understand it as a reflection of life. And then I just had to really be by myself. I had to be okay with being by myself. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people because they want to be liked and they want to be loved and they want to be accepted. But those were things I didn't know what that felt like. I had no idea of what that meant. I know I was searching for it, but I didn't know what it felt like. And so I had to be okay with me, being by myself and understanding what it is that I liked or who I was. And it was hard. My mom had me as a little girl stand in front of the mirror saying, I like myself 10 times every day. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, nobody likes me, so why should I like myself? And it was a really hard struggle and real battle within, me. But I think the toddler in us knows that we're enough. And, it's when we grow up and we kind of get away from our imagination and we kind of steer away from our inner child, and our inner child gets tired. And they're like, wait, we know the truth. We know who we are. We know what we are made of. Yeah. And, that's the key, I think, is always holding on to our inner child, not letting that person be smothered.
I think that's really true because I'm going through therapy right now, and I've gone through my healing journey, and I thought I was done, which is so funny. I thought I was done. I look at myself now and I just laugh. And so I started my healing journey, I would say probably about 5 years ago. And I really got to a point of peace and acceptance of myself about 2 years ago. And I was like, I'm done. I'm good. I've crawled through the trenches. I've climbed up through the sides of the mountains. I've waded through the pits of hell. I'm here. I've arrived. I'm good. I love myself. I'm here. And then in the last, I'd say maybe 6 months, things have resurfaced, and I've started to doubt myself again and hate myself again and despise myself. And so I threw myself back into therapy. And my therapist says, you need to go in and hug your inner child. You need to love your inner child. I was like, but I've done that. And she's like, no, you haven't. You've thought about it, but you haven't done it. And so she did a couple of sessions with me where for an hour, I just loved on my inner child. I told myself how much I loved myself. I've forgiven myself. I've asked for forgiveness for myself. I've cried with my inner child. Like it's crazy that you go back to that inner child. But I now have gotten to a point in my life that I thought I was at, but realized now I wasn't, where I'm okay with being on my own. I'm okay with abandonment. I'm okay with people not accepting me because I truly love myself. I truly have accepted and embraced my inner child and the broken child that she was, and built her back up and promised that I'll always be there for her. So I think touching on that need to go back to that inner child is huge.
Oh, absolutely.
So many of us women, we don't do that. So many of us women, we're adults now. We've got our own life. We've got our own children. We've got a spouse. We've got our life's terrible, but this is life. This is what adulthood is. We're adulting, and this is what we need to do, and this is who we need to be, right? And we ignore that need of the inner child. We always have to love that inner child. We always have that toddler inside of us, right? And so you have to feed her and love her and care for her and give her time. And that's part of what going within is all about, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that a lot of people think, oh, I've hugged her, I loved her, I've accepted her, but she's also growing up with you. I mean, you're going to have moments where you fall down and you bruise, and it kind of reveals another scar that you thought maybe you didn't have or you didn't realize was there. And you're like, oof, that one hurt, and that triggered something. And so you have to go back and say, okay, let's work through this. Like, let's do this together. Because that inner child, she does grow along with you, but she's still a child. She still needs love and nurture and, self-care and all of that. And I think that some people want to run away from that because they're afraid that they have to look that inner child in the eye, and they don't want to do that because it's a scary thing. Because if you don't truly embrace the inner child with all her flaws and all her things, then you don't want to see the reflection in the mirror, right? You don't want to look at yourself and be like, ooh, I don't know if I can't accept that of the inner child, then I can't accept that of myself. And I think that's something that you have to you have to face, because I want to look at my inner child and say, I got you. You had me, now I've got you, and we might mess up along the way. We might fall down, we might get bruised, and something might come along, and somebody might leave our world, and we feel like they're abandoning us, but they're technically just not needed anymore. We don't need them anymore, and it's okay to let go. And I've struggled with that recently. I've had some people check out of my life, and I was like, what did I do wrong now? What now? They don't like me now? Great. Okay. Right. How can I fix it? When in reality, there's nothing to fix. It was just, they had their moment, they came in, and it was time for them to go.
And why do we always go back to what did I do now? Because you said that too, and I have the same question whenever someone comes out of or goes out of my life. What did I do now? It's always your fault, right? Mm-hmm. But we need to realize it's not necessarily our fault. They served a purpose, and they moved on because the purpose was served, right?
Right.
We no longer needed them, or they no longer needed us, because that's what life is all about. Here, serving others and being served ourselves, learning the lessons from those that cross our path, and continuing to grow and move on. And so I think that we doubt ourselves, and we put that negativity on ourselves, and we always go, well, why? Well, why? Well, you need to ask why, and you actually have to listen for the answer.
Mm-hmm. Because and I think we jump to assumptions. Like tried to reach out to somebody, couldn't find them. I was like, they deleted me off Facebook. What the heck? And I tried to text them, and I tried to Facebook message them, and I couldn't get a hold of them. And finally, like 2 weeks went by, and I was like, gosh, I must have done something wrong. And I'm like trying to replay Facebook posts in my head, or, what was the last text message I sent? And finally she reached back out. She goes, there's nothing wrong. I just, Facebook shut down because I had like deactivated my account. And so it deleted a bunch of friends, and I've been busy with this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally threw myself, through the ringer, questioning mm-hmm. myself what I did wrong when it had nothing to do with me. And most of the time it has nothing to do with you, mm-hmm. And we're totally cool now. But I was like, well, that was a waste of energy. That was a detour I didn't need to take, and so I try to remind myself when I can't get a hold of someone or somebody hasn't contacted me back. I try to be like, now, wait a second, Erin, just pause. Do you really want to put yourself through this much stress over something that has really nothing to do with you, even though you don't know what the story is? So It's a lesson I've been learning.
Not only that, but if they're willing to write you off without even coming to you first to talk with you about what the issue was, then are they really worthy of your time and effort and energy?
Right. But we all want to be loved and accepted by everybody, right?
Right. Well, and I think that that's another issue, is why do we feel the need to want to be loved and accepted by everyone? I don't necessarily need everybody to love and accept me. That's not my purpose in this world. My purpose is to love and serve those that God puts in my path. And if there's people that don't agree with me or my beliefs, then they don't need to have a space in my life, right? And so why do we feel the need to make everybody believe, love, and accept us, right?
It's a tough one.
And I feel like that goes back to our own insecurity and our own inner child issues. And so if we're feeling that need of why can't we be loved and accepted by everyone, it's an inside issue. It's an internal thing, and we need to work on that. And so we go, where is it in here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my dad had a great saying, growing up, because my dad was my first hero, and until I became my own hero. And people are like, what? So the title of my book, my subtitle is My Journey of Broken Blessings and How I Became My Own Hero, just so people understand. But my dad was my hero. I looked up to him, and he was just always so, if people don't like me, that's fine. I don't care. I don't need them. I'm like, really, Dad? But he's like, nope. And so he had a saying every time. He goes, what you perceive in others, you perceive, are trying to think or don't like something about someone, it's because it's a reflection of our own insecurities, like you just said. Like we need to have a conversation with ourselves. We need to fix, like, why is that bothering me so much? And so I'm starting to learn, when people write me off or they check themselves out, then it's okay, because I have room for another person to come in that I can help and love and maybe empower or inspire, whatever it may be, whatever the purpose is of that relationship. And sometimes relationships come and go. It really just depends. And I think it's what stages are you in life? It's like, here I am, I'm married, I've got 4 fur babies, I don't have any children, and a lot of moms think I don't understand what it is to have children. I don't understand what it is to have children, but I want children, and I've struggled with infertility, but I don't think I should be written off just because I don't have kids yet, so I think, we need to learn how to kind of be gracious with with people and groups. And the only reason why I bring up moms is because I'm in my infertility journey, right? And so I would love to have children. If I don't, I know that I can be the best aunt possible that I can possibly be, or be the best girlfriend that I could possibly be to my girlfriends, or whatever it may be, or to those victims and survivors of domestic violence. So there is a purpose for me, and maybe I don't know what that is. It maybe doesn't include children. I don't know, but I think we need to be gracious to each other. And I think women are the first to attack each other versus lifting each other up and coming together and saying, you know what, we're different, but we both understand. We're both women. We've both struggled with many different things. I'm not saying that men don't struggle, but I think women were just harder on ourselves. And I could not even imagine going through school right now with all the social media. Forget COVID. Pretend COVID doesn't even exist right now. I could not even imagine, kids that get bullied and teased. It just never ends. At least I would go home and it ended, right? And so I think as women, we need to be examples to our children and to our nieces and say, hey, us women need to lift each other up. We need to come together. And if there's something that just doesn't work out, then it's okay not to be friends and to agree to disagree and separate that relationship.
Yeah. I think we really need to rewrite the script on the feminine relationship, because I find myself doing the same thing in comparing myself to other women. But what we need to realize is women are masterfully powerful creatures. Women have the ability to change the world single-handedly without the need of anybody else, right? And so instead of tearing each other down, which is what we're raised to do and programmed to do from childhood, well, be a good girl, act like that person, look like this person, right? We're trained to compare ourselves to other girls, other females, right? So if we can rewrite that script to build each other up, love on each other, enhance our positives instead of pull down our negatives, then we can grow to a place where we're building each other up and empowering each other, right? But we have to rewrite that feminine relationship from what we are programmed to live out. And I've done that myself. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm the most powerful woman ever. I build women up all the time, because I have caught myself gossiping. I have caught myself comparing. I have caught myself tearing women down. And that's something that I have acknowledged and taken responsibility of and worked on changing. But I think that we need to do that in today's society, especially on social media. How many times a day do you go read a post where it's tearing another person down, right? If we can work on positivity, if we can work on building people up. One exercise that I've done is now when I go out in public, I look for ways to compliment strangers. And it throws them totally off. They're like, what did she just say to me? Yep. Oh my God. What? Oh, how do I respond to that? Because we don't know how to respond to positivity any longer. We're so used to the negativity, and we're surrounded in negativity 24/7.
Absolutely. I make that part of my mindset challenge when I do a mindset challenge, is to compliment somebody, compliment a complete stranger, but mean it, like actually genuinely mean the compliment, and it will throw them off. They're like, whoa, and the first thought is like, why are they saying that about me? But most of the time it's like, oh, thank you, if it's done correctly. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we do need to lift each other up. We do need to change the narrative. And we are conditioned with all the constant advertisements. You're not skinny enough. You're not big enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. It's all, you're never this enough. And I tell people that nobody is good enough, because you're just enough, just the way you are. There doesn't need to be that good. Take it out of your vocabulary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Erin, I'm go ahead.
Oh, no, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I'm right there with you. I've caught myself gossiping. I've caught myself being like, and then and then that's when I go back to my father's quote, what you perceive in others, you perceive in yourself. So I got to check myself, be like, okay, what is it that you don't like about yourself today, Erin? Like, let's change that narrative with ourselves.
Yeah, I call it the reflection exercise. When I catch myself gossiping or talking crap about somebody else, I go, okay, what is it in that person that's lighting me up? Why is it bothering me? What is it in me that's the problem? Because they're not the problem. It's not the way that they wear that dress. It's not the way that they wear their hair. It's not the way they put on that makeup. It's something about me. Am I envious? Am I jealous? Is it showing me a reflection within me that I don't feel adequate, right? So then I have to go back and it's a way for me to go within, right? Shut my mouth, stop talking crap, and figure out what in me is off that I need to fix, because this is an issue within me, that has nothing to do with that person walking by me, right?
Absolutely.
So it's an issue. It's an issue in our world, in today's society. And you know what? That's what 2020 is all about. It's shaking us up. It's rattling our cages, it's getting us uncomfortable, and it's making us go within so that we can fix ourselves, because by fixing ourselves, we're fixing the world. One person
Absolutely.
at a time. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, Erin, you have gone through an amazing journey. You have accomplished so much in your life. So many people think of writing books, but they never accomplish it. They never get their voice out there. They live in fear of having their voice heard. But you have rose above and you have accomplished it. And you have gone above and beyond that. You have actually said, I'm not just going to put my book on a shelf. I'm going to have people sponsor my book and get it out to shelters of battered women that need to rise above and stand in their own truth and empower them and allow them to borrow my strength for themselves until they can get on their own 2 feet. And I just find that so amazing and empowering and enlightening. So I just have to tell you kudos and take my hat off to you, because man, are you a badass woman.
Thank you so much. And I mean, I know it's my story, but I hear from so many people that they can relate, even men, I can relate to this in your book, or I can relate to that. And I'm like, this may be my story. I might have put it to paper. I might have put it out there, but so many people can relate to it. And I just want others to have the opportunity to be the light in someone else's darkness, because I didn't have a book like this when I was going through what I was going through. And I really wish I would have had like a survival guide per se, right? And be like, oh, they get it. I know that there's the Me Too movement, and I know that there's other people that can relate, but when you're in it, you don't think that way. You don't think
Absolutely.
anybody understands what I'm going through. How could somebody possibly understand what I'm going through? And I really think that people are like, I just want to help, but I don't know how to help, especially when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assault. It's something that people don't want to talk about. And this is a way that they can help and be the light in someone's darkness. And it's not even about the sales. It's not about that. It's about how can we come together, as the human race, and lift each other up, because that's what the world needs right now. And it's giving people the opportunity to say, like, I've got your back. You're a badass.
Right.
You're not defined by your circumstances. You got this. Like, borrow my strength, borrow my hope. I'm speaking from like the sponsor's point of view here, for if the readers or the listeners are like, what? So when people sponsor the book, they're giving the strength and hope to those victims and survivors by saying, hey, you're not alone. You may not know me, but I believe in you. And so I just think that's really empowering for others to be like, oh, wow, I can actually make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest on this show. If people want to work with you, if they're looking for a coach, where can they find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I also have a website, which is probably the easiest way to contact me if you just go to the contact page at beatentobadass.com. And there's a contact tab, and you just say contact, fill it out, and I'll get a hold of you right away. It's really simple to get a hold of me. Or you can text me at 303-578-8837. That's my badass line.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
That's the easiest way.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time, your generosity, and your amazing knowledge that you shared with us today. And for all of you amazing listeners out there, I just want to thank you for tuning into another episode of the Belief Breakthrough Show. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so now so you don't miss any more episodes. And on Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be hearing from another amazing survivor sharing her story of beaten to badass with us. If you guys want to get a hold of Erin, please don't hesitate to go to her website and connect with her. And if you have any comments, please post them down below and we will respond to them and get back to you, even if you are listening to this show after it has been live. Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tina.